Hello again and welcome to Saturday's task, where we are going to spend some more time looking at our priorities. And as we did on Thursday, this involves looking back over weeks 1 to 4 and Thursday's task and continuing to bring everything together as we begin to look towards week 6, the last week of the course, and what we're going to do with what we found out about ourselves, what we've learnt, what we've worked on going forward. I don't want this to just be 6 weeks of effort that gets put in a drawer and forgotten. That wouldn't be very helpful for anybody. So what I'd like you to start with, very similarly to Thursday, so it might not take you very long if it's still fresh in your mind, is looking back over what you've done so far. And as you look through, pull out and write down as a separate note anything that occurs to you as being a priority. Now, you might have found a lot of things that you want to change about your situation, your circumstances, your life from a Better Balanced course. And that's great. But not everything can be a priority right now. It would be simply just too rushed off your feet and then you would give up before you started. That tends to be human nature. We only have so much energy and so much motivation at any one time. So rather than doing everything, try and think about what you want to prioritise. What has surprised you? Perhaps there were things that have happened that you weren't expecting at all. And what have you begun to make changes around? That's part 1, make those notes. Part 2 is a slightly different way of looking at your priorities and seeing if anything else draws out. We're going back to the balance wheel that you did in week 1. We're going to do it again. So the first thing to remember is that when you do a balance wheel today, please don't look back at what week 1 said. This is not about achieving more or making progress in every area and seeing the numbers go up. Life is just not like that. It's not linear. Despite all the work you've been putting in over the last 5 weeks, it's not as simple as just do the course, do the tasks, improve in all areas. I know that people doing this course have had all sorts of things happen since they started. Life just gets in the way sometimes of what we thought we were going to set out to achieve. So, it's a snapshot. There is no right, there is no wrong. Have another go at a balance wheel and see where you are today. Do those priorities that you've identified from that, based on your scoring and your thinking about the areas, do they match with part 1? If not, no problem. Do you want to add anything in to what you've made a priority in part 1? Do you want to revise it in some way and make some changes? Maybe it wants to stay the same. Part 3, like I say, some crossover with Thursday. Now, first of all, looking at these priorities, some of these may be the same as your non-negotiables. As I said on Thursday, it is my guess that the non-negotiables might be more specific things, the priorities might be overarching themes. I could be wrong. There could be some that are exactly the same, but bear with me because the questions are largely different, apart from starting with the first one. So anything you've identified as a priority, I would like you to start by asking yourself why 5 times again. Ask and answer, why is that a priority to me? And write down your answers until you've done it 5 times. See what stands out there. It's not as though the 5th answer is the magic one. It's going to tell you all you need to know. Perhaps there are bits that come out along the way that make you feel more deeply identified with why it is a priority to you. I think that's really important. The next thing I'd like you to ask yourself is, when I make this a priority for myself, what am I saying yes to? And what am I saying no to? Now, these very much 2 sides of the same coin, of course. For example, when I spend less time on my phone, I'm literally saying no to technology. But what am I saying yes to? More time with my partner? More quality time? Deeper conversation? Deeper connection? I'm saying no to that physical claw hand that starts to develop with too much scrolling. I'm saying yes to better sleep. So bounce around on the yes and the no and see what comes out of that, because again, that's a really powerful tool for identifying why it's important and what you're going to get out of it. When you know exactly what you're going to get out of something, it's much easier to force yourself or encourage yourself to do those slightly more difficult things, such as putting your phone down, such as changing a habit. That's not easy. The next one I think it's important to think about other people in this context because, let's face it, we don't live our lives in a vacuum. Partners, children, employers, employees all rely on us in some way, and our choices affect them too. So when you make this a priority, who will it impact? As well as you, who will it impact? What do you think is likely to come out of that? Is that positive? Is that negative? Have a think about it. And it's not a bad thing to think about what could potentially come out of it in a negative sort of a way. Who could it upset? It doesn't mean it shouldn't be your priority at all. But when we think about it in this way, you're just preempting that a little bit to a point that you're arming yourself, you're preparing yourself for any potential disruption. You're ready for it. And then the fourth question, the last question in part 3, what will happen if you don't make this a priority? Now, my feeling is that if you don't make it a priority, the likelihood is your answer here will be something along the lines of you'll continue as you have been doing, or you won't achieve something that you've not started yet. It might be that yours doesn't fit into one of those categories, but again, as always, I want you to go a little bit deeper. What will happen if you don't make it a priority? Things will stay the same. Question that again. So why is that important that they do or they don't? If things stay the same, what's good about that? What's bad about that? What do you want? What don't you want? See if you can go a little bit deeper onto that, because everything you do for this, like I say, is going to take us into next week. Next week's focus is going to be about making plans to take all of this stuff from weeks 1 to 5 and really make some kind of plan that's going to have you raring to go into the new year. I'm not expecting miracles before Christmas. This time of year is not great for anyone's motivation or energy levels. But when you think ahead over the next 12 months, where are you going to be? That's all about next week. Short-term, medium-term, long-term thinking about where we want to be and some goal-setting strategies that are going to leave you making the most of 2019. I absolutely guarantee it. So have a little listen to the video. The prompts for this are all in the email as well, because I don't want you to have to keep stopping and starting this video. Have a look, get that journal out and work through this stuff, ready for the final week next week, just a little bit more and we're at the finish line. And of course, I will be back tomorrow with a request for some feedback, which I appreciate so much. Thank you to those of you who are filling them in. I'll see you next week. Bye.